I am Peter Bai. I am the president of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 218 in Santa Barbara. I'm lucky enough to be living in Carpinteria, and as we'll hear in Binh Pham's stories tonight, he had a great time coming into Carpinteria today. He said he typically always passed it by on 101, and he said it is the best kept secret in California. So kudos to him. Thank you for being here, and don't spread the word. Okay? This is a bittersweet day for anyone who was living in South Vietnam on April 30, 1975. 50 years ago, this day, Binh lost his country. And we are going to hear his story in just a few moments. But I want to remind us all that the legacy of Vietnam remains with this country to this day. It is part of the American psyche. It is discussed, debated, argued about. Friends that are fellow Vietnam vets get together. They not only talk about those days, but how life is today. And I know that for many people in Little Saigon, this has been a big day of celebration, if you will, but it is tinged with tears, knowing what was lost on that particular day. And I would like Captain Simone, one of our chapter members, if you'd come up and tell us how we got in connection with Binh and your connection to Binh.
Thank you, Peter. I was on the run for the wall back to Washington to see a few friends on the wall, and I was in the middle of nowhere. And we got, somehow, this guy and I got together, started talking about stuff. And you all are part of the Museum of Natural History, maybe, and you understand life is made of moments. And if you don't have moments, you really don't have much of a life. Hanging out with Binh, one day we were in the middle of the desert and we looked at each other. He said something in Vietnamese. I said something in English. I'm pretty sure they matched, because what I said was, "This is the craziest son of a gun I've ever met." Yes, you just got a promotion. That was up from last week. The point I want to make is that there are veterans here. There's 0311s. That's the guy in the hat. He's a Marine, combat Marine. The combat Army guys here. Right behind him is a Cobra pilot. There are people here that have done things that you've never seen. Binh has been somewhere and lived where none of us have ever seen, even the guys that went. He's got stuff inside his head that you would be well to ask about. So ask any of the vets here. He's the one veteran I look up to. Welcome, Binh.
Now, without further ado, Binh, why don't you come up and take a seat here? I will do the same.
See if I can make it from here.
We had this built especially for you.
Sit down is the easy part. Getting up is harder. Thank you.
Okay, I bought my book of notes with me, so it's kind of thick. Before we get started, I wanted to just correct something that it was somewhat had been bothering me, and I have to correct the statement that I had been making and our advertising had been promoting as part of our visit here with Binh tonight. He and his wife Nora did not spend 2 years in re-education camp, but you came this close, correct? So that error is mine, and I'm solely mine, and it was never my intent to deceive anyone. It's, as Rick said in Casablanca, I was misinformed. So my apologies to Binh and to all of you, and in no way should it take anything away from Binh's incredible story and stories that you will hear tonight. and he has graciously agreed to be with us this evening, 50 years to the day of the end of the war in Vietnam. So I would like you once again to give a very warm welcome to Binh Pham. Your book is entitled From Saigon to Hollywood via Jerusalem. So we've set up three different things here. You call it a collection of short stories and sketches, and just by the table of contents, I was astounded at the various stories that you had to tell. What I would like you to do is to set the stage for us. You were born in 1948, correct? It's always good to meet someone also born in the year of the rat. I too was born in 48. That's the Chinese New Year animal, by the way, for 1948. Year of the rat. Okay. He's mansplaining again. Tell us a little bit about your childhood and your parents and where you were living at that time as you were growing up.
Yeah. I was born in 1948 in the Mekong Delta. And then I grew up in Saigon. My parents were teachers. And my mom was a second grade teacher that I went to. She was my teacher. So I grew up in a school compound. And then high school. By the time I get to high school, the war was raging on and on. It was hot. And I went to college. So my service was deferred because I was in college. And then after college, I worked for a government bank. So again, my service was deferred again. Up until summer of 72, you know, it was so hot, and by that time, the American Army started to pull out, so I was drafted. But then I didn't spend much time in the service at all because I was working for the government bank, so they transferred me back to the bank. So I never see real combat, you know, and I was so scared the whole time. I was scared, so scared. So, yeah.
So the Japanese had come in during the Second World War. The French returned after the end of the war to take over their colony again. Mm-hmm. And then the country basically split in two in 1954.
Yeah.
Do you recall those very early days of, were your parents talking about things? Were they worried about things? What was the atmosphere like?
I remember very much so because I grew up in a school, elementary school compound. So in 1954, when the country was split in half, a lot of refugees coming from the north come to the south. And a lot of them, you know, at the beginning, they lived inside the school. The school took them to live in there until the government find them a place to stay. So right there, I saw the people coming from the north. So it's still vivid in my memory of 1974.
Yeah. As you got older, did the fighting begin to intensify where you were living, or were you aware of it, or did you have to live with something every single day, of whether there were, you know, gunfire or rockets, or what was your situation like?
Well, I lived most of the time in the city, but you know, at night, the enemies shoot rocket into Saigon, and you know, You wake up one morning and the whole neighborhood is gone. So, yeah. So it's just a daily thing, you know.
Did you ever consider that a potential life without war in the country, or was everybody pretty much of the feeling like, well, this is the way things are going to be for some time?
I think that's the feeling at that time, you know, it's gonna be going on for some time. So we go to school, we party, we do whatever we can, you know, because we know it's the war is come and stay for a long run, you know. So it, you know, when I was 19 years old, if somebody told me I would live up to 77, 78 years old, I don't believe that, you know. Let alone one day they say, well, you're going to be in the U.S. I say, no way. I think I'm going to, during the war, you know, because of the atrocity of the war, nobody, you know, we don't plan. We just live for the moment.
On a lighter note, you write about going to the movies, and you were seeing basically French films at that time. What was that? Now, did you speak French, or did you learn French, or in country did you learn?
Yes. I was a French colony, so you know, you learn French in high school. Plus, my dad, for some reason, he wanted me to speak good French, so he tutored me French, you know, every day. So I speak the language. You know. So my dad was a principal and a teacher, and he disciplined me a lot. But he's very loving. He's busy, but he always find time to tutor me with math or French. And once in a while, he'd take me to see the movies, and I enjoyed it. The love for movies stayed with me to the day.
You also got exposed to television, and you write in your book that it was a really odd thing that one of your favorite television shows in that time period of the mid-60s was Combat with Vic Morrow.
You know, at the beginning, we have only black and white TV, right? So it was broadcasted from an airplane first, from a I think that's from a Dakota C-7447. So it was black and white, and every neighborhood we have a small black and white TV, and all the kids and all the neighbors sit down on the floor and watch TV. And because we don't speak English that well, we didn't understand English. So Combat is a movie that you don't need to understand it to enjoy it. So Combat is number one. For some reason, you know, with all the violence during the war, but Combat with Vic Morrow was number one movies.
Now, my understanding is that when your dad had been married before, you had an older half-brother. Tell me about him.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier I was this close to be in they call it rehabilitation camp, but actually it's labor camp. In some extent, it was like the Holocaust. I lived in Israel for 5 years. All my neighbors at one point was Holocaust survivor. They told me a story about that. I was close to that. So anyway, go back to the story. I have a half-brother. I was born in 1948, and he was maybe 15 years old at the time, my half-brother. He went north and joined the communists and stayed up north until 1975. So when he came back, after the fall of Saigon, he sponsored me. He signed a piece of paper warranty that I'll be a good citizen. That's why I never spent time in those camps. And after that, when I escaped out of Vietnam, he was in trouble. So when I came back in 1992, I went and visited him. I apologized to him. He said, "No, you do the right thing." He told me he was in trouble for a little bit, but he said, you did the right thing. You have no future here."
Wow.
How was he your half-brother?
Mom or dad?
His
I'm sorry.
father had been married previously.
My dad.
That's right.
He married first time. He has 2 kids, and and his wife died. Back then in the early '90s, the disease or whatever, pregnancy complication or whatever, she died. So he married for the second time. His wife gave him a daughter, and she died.
Your sister?
Yeah, from whatever, I didn't get all the detail. So by the time he wanted to marry my mom, her family was against it. They said, "You're gonna die like the rest of them." But they lived together for 60 years together.
Were you worried about that reconciliation with your older brother? Did you wonder what was going to happen when the two of you got together?
That's funny. He joined the communists, but when he came, he said, he didn't say it clearly, but he made me understand that they were brainwashed the whole time. He thought that we are starving in the South. He'd come back to liberate us. So when he saw things happen in 1975, after he came home, he saw everything. He said, "Well, no." So he was kind of wake up things for him. So we are on the same page on that. The North Vietnamese didn't liberate us. No.
Let's go back to April 30 of 1975. In the days leading up to that, obviously the news was getting worse and worse. You knew that the North Vietnamese were getting closer to Saigon. What did you try to do to see if you could get out of the country? What did you do?
No, I didn't really want to get out.
Or did you get to see the news?
Well, hang on.
Yeah?
I'm sorry.
Did
Go
you
ahead.
see news?
We'll have a spot for questions later.
Yeah,
Hang on.
okay.
Hang on.
It's okay. What's your question, ma'am?
Did you see any news?
Right here.
Yes. Yeah, we know. It's because doesn't happen. It's happened fast, but not that fast. You can see wave and then, just one province after another within a week or so, it's failed, and then, the South Vietnamese army just retreat, south. So we know it's coming. We know it's coming. The reason I stay, because all my sister and my sister, they all they said they were gonna get out of Vietnam. So I want to stay back and help my parents, because I thought it gonna be a bloodbath in South Vietnam, But in a way, now looking back, it's a good thing. The bloodbath didn't happen.
On April 30, did you go over to the U.S. Embassy to see if there might be a possibility of getting on a job?
Yeah, I didn't plan to go out. I remember just curious, you know. I took my fiance at the time, I took her to say goodbye to her family that was leaving the country on a helicopter. So I get to the base where they're waiting, and they took her. They won't let her go. So I came back to Saigon, and I was on Tongue Independence Boulevard with the presidential palace on one end and the American embassy on the other end of that long boulevard. So I went, that time, I remember at one point the sky was full of helicopters. They all flew southwest toward the seventh fleet that was waiting outside. So I know it's the end. And I was on a scooter, so I went to the presidential palace. At that point, the tank already crashed the gate, and they went in, and the flag was changed. You know. But for some reason, I don't know, you're from Saigon, right? So I went from Notre Dame Cathedral. I went to the river where the Navy base is, the naval base. And it was one or two, I think it's one, South Vietnamese Navy ship was leaving with people on it. And the North Vietnamese are just barely half a block away. So I think that the North Vietnamese, they don't want to corner a dog, you know. I think that's what happened.
So you wait things out, you go back home. How long did it take you to realize that you needed to leave the country?
So that day on the 30th, I was panicking when I saw the North Vietnamese on Moldova truck pull into Saigon. I was panicking. So I and my brother-in-law, we said, well, we gotta get out of here. So he left my sister, his wife, his daughter. I just eyed him trying to get out of Vietnam. So we were on a scooter and we hid a small gun in the battery compartment of the scooter. So we went south on Highway 1, just outside Saigon, and we get to a roadblock. And they gonna check people for weapons. And we want to go back, but they blocked the other end too. So as we inches toward the checkpoint, I said to my brother, okay brother, this is it. They will find that gun in our scooter and then we'll be dead. About 20 feet from the checkpoint, I heard gunshot ran out. And they opened the roadblock. I went by, there's a South Vietnamese guy. They shot a South Vietnamese guy. He was still in blood. They found some weapons on him. So somebody died on that day for me. Without him, they found the weapons on him. It would be me or my brother-in-law.
When you finally got back home, how had life changed in the coming weeks and the coming months under this whole new regime that was basically making sure that you did everything by the book every single day? What was the routine like?
It was a horrible time, They started by exchanging money. So it doesn't matter how much money you have, They said, okay, this is new money. You can exchange maybe at that time $5 at the most. So that's all you can get, the new money to buy food or do whatever, you know. They did it twice. And the food started to get scarce. So a lot of people were starving. But on top of that, the police can break into your house any time of the day to check things. There's no, it's, you know, you gotta live there to understand, you know, how it feels like living in a authoritarian region. You know, it's terrible. You know, they have no right. So at that point, about a year after the fall of Saigon, I and my brother-in-law, we are really close. We said, well, we gotta get the hell out of here, you know, at any cost. So we planned for the escape.
And that escape was going to be by boat. But
Yes.
how did you accomplish that?
So my brother, he's a good negotiator, so he went to the town of Frontier, which is central Vietnam. It's like 200 miles north of Saigon. He went to a fishing village and bought a fishing boat with a crew of 3, you know, the captain and 2 deckhand that took up with us, and then we got to pay for the boat. So friends and, you know, relatives would chip in enough money to pay for that. So in April of 1977, 2 years after the fall of Saigon, we went up on Highway 1 to Frontier, to that town, and then from there, the car that took us, you know, me and my brother-in-law, we was on a scooter, and then a Jeep, you know, a Jeep, and then a big truck, that camouflage truck, that if you take the canvas off, all you see is merchandise. But inside, the hidden room inside for 55 of us.
Wow.
Big truck.
No, it's not a big truck, sir. We are small, so we are fitted now, right? Plus 1 year of stuff, we all weigh maybe 30 kilo, 75 pounds, 80 pounds. Oh, we all fit in there. So anyway, we went to that town, and we will cross the jungle about maybe 3 miles from the Highway 1 to the ocean. We were waiting with a flashlight. At that time, the fishing boat is waiting outside, looking back in to find our signal with a flashlight, right? So we picked the night with no moon, you know, dark. And, you know, to play game with the communists, we picked a embarkment spot right next to a police station. So nobody think of somebody stupid enough to pick that place to get on the boat. Right, so we were waiting, and then we give signal, nothing, because later on we found out that the captain of the boat, when he went out there, he was lost. So we was at the wrong place or something, but finally, for some reason, he get our signal. So the boat came in. I have a picture, you know. The boat came in, bow first, because they are afraid they'll be stuck. And because it's near the police station, so they muffle the exhaust with wet cloth So in the dark, I see the boat coming in, the silhouette of a boat coming in, and with the muffling sound of the engine. So we all walk out of the water up to here, 55 of us. So guys on the boat just grab people one by one. It's way up here, you know, it's even a small boat, but because they come in bow first, so it's way above us. So they grab one by one, pull us up. I was one of the last one in the water. I was scared. I apologize shitless. I'm so scared being left behind, the cold, the dark, the slippy bottom, the murky water, the panic, you know. But for some reason, I was waiting to be pulled up, and the corner of my eye, I saw something white drop into the water. So I just, by instinct, I just grabbed it. As it was a bag, a cloth bag. So I grabbed it, gave it to the guy in the boat. He pulled me up, gave me the bag. I opened the bag, there's a baby inside. 1 month baby. So I asked my wife, I found my wife, she's already on the boat. I said, you know who this baby belonged to? She said, no, I don't. Because it's panicking, you know, just nobody know what to do. It was chaos, you know. So I looked around the boat and I went to the one corner. I saw a woman, she was crying. I can see tears in her eyes. I say, oh, I still have goosebumps in me when I tell you that story. So I asked her, why were you crying? She said, I lost my baby in the water. I said, is this it? So 25 years later, I went to a little wedding. That baby went in San there. You know, I couldn't explain it unless I call it a miracle.
So you folks head out into the South China Sea. You must have had a great captain on board to guide you.
Oh my gosh, that guy, he's a freak. He's a fake. I saw him shooting. You know, you know, morphine or whatever, he's shooting drug. And always time we were fishing in that village, that area. Once we were out there, you know, nothing. So we kind of take over, you know, and we were lost, so lost. Plus, on top of that, we bought sorry for my French, a shitty compass. That's way off. When I came to Israel, become a friend of the captain, he said, you know why you were so lost? Because you don't know the way, plus that compass is a piece of shit. But you know, being lost, we met that cargo ship from Israel on the way from Singapore to Taiwan.
But that was, in a sense, pretty darn lucky because you guys drifted for quite some time out there.
We drifted, we
What was
lost.
What was your water situation? What was your food situation?
You know, when we waited from the water into the boat, you know, food was spoiled. And back then, because the communists a lot of people tried to get out on the boat. So every time a fishing boat leaving the harbor to go fishing, the cop came aboard. Okay, they say, okay, how many of you? 3? How many days? 2 days fishing? They just allow enough food and water for 3 people for 2 days fishing. So once we are out there, second day, no more water. So I found a kettle and I put some seawater in there and I found a rubber hose. Tried to make the steam to make into the water. And then my wife, she was stay in the corner, and I give her, often maybe after hours, I get maybe half a cup of that water. But the hose is to siphon diesel. So she took a sip of that. Anyway, so the food is no more, the water is no more water. So my wife, she said, my brother-in-law, he said, 5 days. My wife, she said, between 3 and 4 days, but we don't remember for sure how many days it was. Yeah.
How many ships passed you by, saw you, but did not pick you up?
A lot of them came by, a lot of them. I remember, they come very close to us, and, look at us, and I still in my mind, I saw one ship. One of the officers in white uniform, white captain hat. He got a binocular and look at us, and then put down his binocular. I can see it, and he said, took off.
Yeah.
Because at that time, there's a lot of merchant ship picked up Vietnamese boat people, and no country will take them. So the ship ended up carrying them around for months looking for a place to stay. So that's why. But when I came to Israel, I became a friend of the captain. He told me the whole story. Let me describe that, tell you what's going on at that time. So when the Israeli ship came close to us, we made a flag, white flag, with a red X, it means help, we need help. So that Israeli ship came near us, and then they took off. But then my heart sank. I said, okay, one more ship. But then they returned. Because they didn't realize a ship take a long time for a ship to turn back. So they went back and they let us get closer next to their ship. And I remember, because in my 66 people aboard, I speak more or less more English than most of them. So I remember exactly what's going on at that time. So they said, well, what do you need to a bullhorn, right? I said, water. So they put water hose, give us water, and then how about, what else? I said, food, we are starving. So they sent a basket of food. And then the captain, the second officer, the first or second officer said, well, what else you need? Well, you need fuel.
Rescue.
Huh?
You need rescue.
So I said, well, how about fuel? What kind of fuel? I don't know. So we sent a sample to them. I said, it's end up we use diesel, and for big ship they use heavier fuel. That's not the same. But anyway, at that same time, the captain later told me, I don't want to pick you guys up because it means I'm going to lose my job if I have you carrying you on the ship for months looking for a place for you to stay. I will lose my job.
Ooh.
Right? At that very moment, his wife and his daughter was with him on that trip. Those two women, they looked at the women and the kids in our boat, and they were begging him to rescue us. But he said, no, I'm going to lose my job. At the very same second, the radio man came to the control bridge, tell them that a big storm is coming to the area. They say, well, that I have to tell you guys. That's the story he told me when I came to Israel. I became a good friend of the captain, so he told me that story. And the night before, we were at sea, and the ocean was flat, like a mirror. We didn't know at that time it was in the, what do you call it? What?
The eye of a hurricane?
Yep. The ocean was like a mirror. I mean, flat.
Wow.
We didn't know.
You write in your book that scared you. That dead calm, that scared you?
It's kind of the dead calm ocean. Yeah, it was weird. Not scared, but I feel weird about it, So much like a mirror, so flat.
So how is it that with an Israeli merchant vessel picking you up, how did you end up in Israel?
Okay, so they lower. Well, my wife. I start with my wife. She for 4 days or 5 days or 6 days, whatever, or a week, maybe 10 days, I don't know. She was staying at the one corner of the boat. Never opened her eyes, never talk, never drink, never eat, never even pee for those days. But the second I told her, the ship gonna pick us up, she's wide awake. So if somebody died, she will be the last one who died on that boat. But anyway, they lower a ladder. Our boat is way down here, and the ship is like 10-story high. So they lower a rope ladder. We have to climb one by one, climb up the rope ladder. It was slippery. If you fall, you'll be caught between the two vessels, and that's it. So we all climb up there, all of us, with kids, with that one month baby kid, we all climb up there into the ship. And I never remember one of the sailors gave me an orange. Oh my gosh. It's from the kibbutz in Israel, and it tastes so good. I'm sorry.
All right. There was something that was happening in Israel at that time concerning refugees, specifically Vietnamese refugees. Tell us about that. What was going on?
So it was around June 1977. Israel just voted for the new Prime Minister, Menachem Begin. And he got news that the Israeli ship rescued 66 Vietnamese boat people. And the first thing he ever signed as a Prime Minister is to take us to Israel.
Awesome.
That was really good news. So the ship took us to Taiwan because they were on the way from Singapore to Taiwan. And we stayed there and waited for the paper to be arranged and all that stuff. So we flew from Taiwan to Hong Kong to Frankfurt in Germany, and the flight, Israel flight to Israel. So, funny story. So we were waiting at Frankfurt Airport, and back in the 70s, only rich people traveled. Men in suit and women in nice clothes, in the 70s. Not too many to fly. So we were waiting at the airport of Frankfurt. This was like heaven to me, with all the lights, all the shop, And before we left Taiwan, a charity organization in Taiwan came aboard and gave us clothes because we were tattered. So they give men shirt and pants and women robes. So we look okay, but they totally forget about shoes. So when we were climbing, while we climbed that rope ladder, we lost all our shoes. So we finally have 2 left flip-flops. And my wife, she has it. I was bare feet the whole time. But no, for some reason, nobody paid attention. So we were waiting at the airport in Frankfurt. And I told my wife, we were waiting for like 2-3 hours. Let me go window shopping. May I borrow your flip-flop? So I borrowed her left flip-flop, walking around the airport of Frankfurt, looking at nice things, and she was waiting there. No shoes. She cannot go anywhere, so she was waiting there. But the funny thing, 4 hours later, she was greeted by the Prime Minister of Israel.
What?
Like a princess. So that's just how life is. It's irony, the irony of life, As I live longer, I can see the irony of life. It's just things change in a way, that make me believe that miracle really happened.
So you go from being refugees to now potential immigrants, in a sense, seeking asylum.
Yeah.
How did that process work in Israel? Were you just immediately welcomed and you get your paperwork? And what was the procedure there?
The Israel, the Jew, they were exiled for 2,000 years, right? They were mistreated by everybody else. And now they have their own country, so they understand. They understood how to be a immigrant or a cast out or, no country people, So they treated us like VIP. They have people, at the airport and on the way to the small town when we went and learned Hebrew. People was out and cheer us, was day and night from nobody to VIP. How about that?
When did they set you up for living quarters? Where did you live and did you go to work?
Yeah, we live in a place in Hebrew we call Mekas Klita. It means absorption center, where they give you just me and my wife, so we have a small RV, not RV, but a
Trailer?
a trailer, yeah. So we live there, and then we learn Hebrew, and then we learn the way of life in Israel. Yeah. Well, it was in a small town, and not about 2 miles from Gaza Strip. Now I look back, I say, Ofakim is a town where we live. It's about 2 miles from Gaza Strip, way south in the Negev Desert. So we learned Hebrew there, and then my first job was working for an oil drilling platform in the Red Sea. So it was a life-changing job.
It's life-changing, period.
Life-changing everything, yeah.
So how long were you in Israel? And was there ever a thought that you would like to move from Israel, or did you kind of think, well, here we are?
Yeah, we lived there for almost 5 years. Both of my kids was born in Israel. They are in the 40s now, but they have their birth certificate is only in Hebrew. And that's a problem. When I came to the U.S., I put them in school and then nobody say, what year the kid is born? I say, it's in there. I said, in Hebrew, and we don't know. So I found a rabbi to make the translation for me, and then I say, oh, the kid was born in 78 and the other one is 1980, so put them in the right grade, you know. But anyway, we lived there, and then until 1981, when I applied for Israeli citizenship, they drafted me for the army. I found out it was a mistake. And it's automatically, when you apply for citizenship, they want you to join the army. So I told my wife, time out, hang on. I had my share of violence and killing and all that things that during the war. I have nothing to do with that. So I said, well, let's get out of here. So, so we applied for a tourist visa. We went to France, lived there for a little bit, you know, it's too cold, and I knew right away that I have no future, you know, it's very hard to adapt to the French society, you know. So we came to the U.S. with a tourist visa, and then 3 months after that, the tourist visa expired. So we were illegal alien from 1982 to 1989 when President Reagan gave the amnesty. So for 8 years we was illegal alien. I moved every year. For some reason, immigration get my wife's name and try to deport her. And every year when we get the letter of deportation, we move without leaving anything forwarding the address, but the following year we get another one. So my friend said, Ben, why are you moving all the time? Are you in trouble with the government? But then we get the amnesty. So now I have a very mixed feeling about immigration in the U.S. It's more complicated than most thought it is, yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned it, because obviously now this is a time in this country when it seems as though there are certain people that have put immigration right at the very top of their list to do something about. In knowing your story and hearing you going from refugee to immigrant to going from one country to another and ending up in the U.S., what are your thoughts now after living in this country for a number of decades? Tell us, what do you think about living here?
I say compassion. Compassion. Be compassionate for those people. That's all I want to say. It's more complicated. We can argue about it forever. You never, find a solution, a perfect solution. There's no perfect solution for immigration in the U.S. Because look, I live and travel to a lot of places. This country is still the best place to live. The best place to live in every way that you can think of, like land or standard of living, food, resource, freedom. It's still the best.
And religion.
Huh?
Freedom of religion too. This
Freedom of religion too.
Yeah.
Tell you what, we'll have a couple of minutes for maybe a question or two, and I know that we need to wrap up here very shortly. Anybody have a question out there? You can either stand, shout it out, go ahead. Yes,
You know what? Buy me a beer after this.
Can you chat for as long as you want?
How did you get to Oxnard?
I don't live in Oxnard. My brother-in-law, he's a dentist, and he gets certified to practice here.
Yeah.
So all his friends, get dental office in Lower Saigon. He said, no, I'm going here to Oxnard. And he has his office in Oxnard, and he's been here for 30-some years. He's doing great, And that's why I came last night, I love city of Oxnard in particular, and Ventura, and now
Carpinteria.
yeah, it's the charm of a small city that people are so much nicer,
Village.
Yes, ma'am.
So, where are your two children and what do they do for a living now?
My son, he's a scientist for Johnson & Johnson. And my daughter is, she wanted to be a teacher like the rest of the family, but for many years she, what do you call it, substituting?
Yes, something.
Couldn't get a job. So she doing something, she doing some marketing. I have two grandkids, and they are 10 and 14. The girl, she's into piano and cello.
So my last question.
Yes, ma'am.
You had said earlier in your talk that when the helicopters came in Saigon to take the people, to evacuate, you said that your girlfriend's parents took your girlfriend.
Well, at that moment, when my fiancée, she's not my wife now.
Oh, that's what I was gonna ask. That was
That's not.
different lady.
Yeah, different.
Okay.
We were engaged. So
Okay.
she said, this is what she said on the last day, on the April 30th. She said, I'm staying here with you, but let me say goodbye to my family. And I happened to know where they're waiting for the helicopter to pick them up. So I took her there, and her family just grabbed her. Won't let her stay back with me.
Didn't want to lose her.
Big choice.
Do you recall what it was like watching the last of those helicopters leave on that day, this day?
I
50
didn't
years
see
ago.
Yeah, I see a bunch of helicopters, The sky was full of helicopters. You name it, Chinook, way small helicopters. The sky was, at one point I think I saw at least 50 helicopters in the sky. They all flying, west toward the 7th Fleet, So I saw it, I was panicking. I couldn't describe my feeling at that time, I was mix of being afraid, mix of feeling like left behind. Yes, sir.
What has been your business career here in the U.S.?
I was illegal alien for 9 years.
Yeah.
No?
So the time I was in Israel, I was in restaurant business. I was a chef. I opened not restaurant business, I just opened a small restaurant, and I did everything, cooking, shopping, grocery shopping, cleaning the bathroom, everything. So, anyway. So I came to the U.S. in 1981, right? Illegal alien. The immigration was after my wife. And I had the audacity to apply for a government job. The water district in Irvine. You know what happened?
You got it?
I met a lot of people who helped me all my life. I was applying for a job, no paper, nothing. I came in with, you know, back then when you were coming to the US, they give you a form, the I-93, you fill it out, at the bottom, they just tear the bottom, about this thin, a small piece of paper, that's all I got. And it was expired. My tourist visa was expired. I have nothing. So, applied for a government job. I went through the interview, right? I remember, you know, it's an entry level job, but they still have 5 people interview me. So one of the guys interviewed me. I know he's gonna be my boss. And I said, when the interview was finished, I said, well, his name is Don Norris. I said, Don, I'm illegal alien, but if you hire me, I'm gonna work hard. He was a Vietnam vet. I don't know what he did, but they hired me. Yes, sir.
You spoke a lot of English. You spoke more English than most who came over. So part of my question is, did that help you to first settle in and find a job? And the second is, how old were you when you were on the...
I learned English in high school. Yeah, but
When you were on the boat?
I speak, you know, in high school, you know, broken English, but I was the best English speaking in the whole boat. That's why I was like a spoken person. Spokesperson, right? Yeah, that's how I remember things, you know, because I was in direct contact. So, I was the last one on the boat. I have a picture of that. When I came to Israel, the captain gave me all the picture of the rescue. So everybody was up in the ship. I was the last one, and they sent the first officer down to our boat, and he said, "What do you want to do? What do you want me to do with the boat?" I said, "Burn it." Burn it. So he and I, we get a can of diesel, go around and strike the match. I have a picture of that. There's still a little smoke coming out. But 24 hours later, the Communist Navy, the North Vietnamese Navy, they found a boat barely burned with nobody aboard. They send out radio signal to all the ship in the area to see if they know anything about that boat that nobody aboard, but that will burn.
Ben, I want to thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for being a true eyewitness to history. And on this April 30th, 2025, thank you for your story. Thank you for your wonderful life. And thank you for being here this evening.
Yeah, before we finish, I want to put one thing in perspective. You know, we fought for 3 years, from 1972 to 1975. Without much left. Not the shitty thing happened in Afghanistan or Iraq, you know. Yeah. They collapsed within days, right? We fought for 3 years. Peter, thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight, folks. I'm sorry, Rudy? Yes?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, to all the Vietnamese people I have met, they're a beautiful country.
Yep.
You are special to me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Come on, yeah.
You're here. For all of you in our class, thank you, folks. Thanks to the Carpinteria Museum and History. Look forward to seeing you on the 16th of May when we do our panel discussion. And you're certainly welcome to chat with Ben as we kind of put this place back together. Thank you so much.